Okay, here we go.
Go. Welcome, everyone. We are so happy to see you today. So let us know where you are zooming in from. In the chat here, let us know the weather report. As you all know from my email this morning, it's a little windy, stormy here in Vermont. So if I get knocked off of the internet or we lose power at any point, God forbid, Jan is willing to take over, keep sharing some poems until I can get back on again.
I'll tap dance. I'll
We will.
dance as fast as I can.
No dancing required, just the dance of poetry.
Oh,
Um, but it is wonderful to welcome you all. So we'll give folks a couple minutes to gather here and just know how grateful we are to see you. While we are gathering, just so you all know, I think most of you probably know who January Gill O'Neill is. But just for those of you who don't, she is the author of Glitter Road, one of my favorite books of all time. Actually, though, I can't say that Rewilding is not one of my favorite books of all time, too. And Misery Islands and The Underlife, is that
Underlife. Yeah.
Underlife? Yeah. And so January is an amazing poet. She's professor at Salem State University and is just one of the best humans and poets around. She's always so willing to dive in and be generous with her time and wisdom. So we are very grateful to have her here today. Please give
Mm,
her a warm welcome.
mm,
And
mm,
and so Jan, I would love it if we could start with just a poem that you feel
mhm,
called to read, kind of bring us into the
mm,
soul space together as we gather by the hearth here.
mm. That is a good question. All right. Since I opened it up, and I think it's one that is in your list of poems, I think I will read Regret Nothing.
Mm,
Okay. Regret nothing. If at 4 a.m. you find yourself awake and alone, curled up in your half-empty bed under a flashlight's white light, reading a poem, little moon casting its aura across the page, regret nothing. Not the clothes piled in the corner, not the drawers closed like caskets, the unpacked lunches, the bedtime story trapped in its book, the child's glove under the couch, missing the body it protects. All that must be swept, bundled, and carried off to somewhere else, only to return to the source of your unmaking. Regret nothing. Even as a glimmer of yourself catches you in the mirror like a stranger, walk into the day with your whole heart intact. Walk into the center of everything. Leave nothing in your wake.
mm, wow.
Mm.
Oh, such a powerful poem. I know I've given that poem to people as a writing prompt in the past
Mm.
because that refrain and repetition of regret nothing, it just seems to build and build
Mhm.
as you use it again. And that image that gets me every time of the child's glove missing
Mhm.
the body it protects. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's so heartbreaking.
Well, thank you.
Beautiful.
Sometimes with writing, I can get into a groove, and I feel like I can kind of, I don't know, reverse engineer how things happen. So, in thinking about what a glove does,
Mm,
and protecting a body, and in this case, a child's body. I mean, I think that's kind of what happened there. Like, it's not like I was looking for the right phrase. That's just what happened. But that sort of writing only happens for me, when I'm in a groove. And
mhm,
yeah, and I tend to use regret nothing or that idea. I think in this book and in Rewilding, I think I've used it before.
mm.
I know I've changed. It appeared somewhere in a poem when I was putting in the manuscript together. I'm like, well, maybe I should change the title of this. But that seems to be a reoccurrent theme with me.
Mhm.
This life is full of regrets, and here I am saying, don't regret anything. It is what it is, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like I feel like the tenor of the poem is like there are gonna be these regrets, but basically, don't go dragging them behind you. That,
Yeah.
the end that so
Yeah.
powerful. Leave nothing in your wake. We carry this weight, we carry these, regrets with us. And even as they arise, I mean, it's my practice, and I would say this is very present for me in the midst of grief too. Like you think about all the things you could have done, all the things you should have or could have said, and
Right.
it's like, yep, that all comes up. And then you have to find a way to, I like that idea of reverse engineer, like, okay, it's coming up, but I'm going to turn it back around and say, no, thank you, or regret nothing. That this is how I want to live. I don't want to live from regret. I want to live from a place of aliveness.
Right.
Yeah.
I think also about grief and, all the things that have brought us to this point. It's not all joy.
Yeah.
Some of it is heartache and pain and regrets. And, for most of us being able to, us being connected on this call, I mean, everything we've ever done has brought us to this point. And I do think about that a lot whenever I'm like, well, here we are. But even with the painful pieces, I mean, we wouldn't be here without them. So, learning to live with them, learning to carry it all and what to leave behind is just ongoing.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you remember what led to this poem or how you wrote it? Anything about that? I'm always
You know,
curious.
yeah, I'm guessing I probably did it with a poem a day challenge,
Hmm.
which is something that I like to do. I haven't done one in a while just because I've been busy. But this year, my friends and I are doing a poem a week.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
that's actually manageable. And
Yeah.
so every Sunday we post, I am 3 poems behind, but that's okay. That's okay. But at the end, I'll have 52. But probably with this poem, I was doing a challenge like that. And I think the undercurrent for that poem is my ex-husband passed away. We divorced in 2010 and he passed away in 2016. So that whole feeling of being alone at 4 a.m. and thinking about all the things that haven't been done, I think part of that is there's no one to help do those things.
Yeah.
When you're a single parent, it is all you. And so if you don't make sure that, the kid finds the glove or gets the glove, that's an issue. So I think that's part of the poem now. And I think I can say that having some distance from that time period.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I mean that's such a big part of Glitter Road, I feel like, is that thread of grief of having, lost the husband in a way and then lost him more fully after he passed away. And
yeah.
then the other book that I held up, Rewilding, is very much about, kind of coming out of that divorce and
Hmm.
reawakening,
Hmm.
rewilding your sense of
Yeah.
self in a
Yeah.
way.
Coming back
Um,
stronger in the broken places.
Coming back to what?
Rewilding for me is coming back stronger in the broken places.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Mm.
Yeah, I wonder how you get yourself into a groove or keep yourself into a groove if you have any words of advice for
Ooh.
us.
You know, um, it's interesting when you're not in a groove. Like I don't feel like I'm in a groove. And so eh, there's no magic trick. It is
Yeah.
butt in chair, sit down and
Yeah.
write, work through all of the issues. I know time is a big issue, and I do think that for a lot of us, it really is hard to sit down and find time. But then for me, I think that part of that is a defense mechanism. So, I don't have time. Of course I have time. In fact, like this semester, this year, I'm on sabbatical, so I got plenty of time. So I don't have an excuse. But with my students, I'd also, well, tell them to lower their standards,
Mm,
right? You can't sit down at the page cold every time and write something amazing. And it may happen, but it may not. And we're always kind of writing
mhm,
as we move through the day, as we walk, we pick up an image, we have a conversation, a bit of dialogue, or, a misheard phrase, maybe we remember it, capture it, write it down. And so I think being present and conscious of all that. So when you do have that extra 10 minutes or that extra hour that, you can get quicker to the page and get to where you want to be. So I guess what I'm saying is, the practical steps, look at your schedule and be realistic about how much time you have. And there's, 5 minutes is 5 minutes. I think 10 is good to get a solid idea down.
Mm.
Um, but if you can find an hour or two a week, just write. I mean, some people like word counts, especially if they're doing fiction or nonfiction. I like to sit down and finish an entire draft when I can. And I may start it on one day and finish it in another. So whatever works for you, be consistent. It
Yeah.
doesn't ever feel like we're doing anything, right? Like,
Yes. No, it really
but then
doesn't.
you turn around and then you're like, oh, I've written a poem a week for almost a year. I have more than 40 drafts. Most of them are bad, but they are usable, there's something there.
Mm.
And it makes it easier to go back to the page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that sort of longer outlook of saying,
Hmm.
okay, well, I'm in like the drafting phase of like building
Hmm.
up the drafts. And so
Hmm.
then you have those 40 to 50 solid drafts that you can go back to. And I do a weekly poem newsletter, and so that keeps me,
Yeah.
every week. They're not
Yeah.
they're not all good. They're not all like my best work, but I do my best each week, and it is that little bit of pressure. And
Hmm.
it's like, our guest last week was Rosemary Watola Tromer. She writes a poem every single day.
Yeah.
That's not manageable for me. I can do a
Right.
week, and I like to do a
Yeah.
little essay with it to keep my
Right.
prose muscles stretched.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've found that to be really supportive. And,
Hmm.
just having a group like you said that you have to kind of keep you accountable can also be really helpful, I think, for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And I think when you show up, like you said, butt in chair, it's all very simple and it almost seems cliche, but it's like that's because it
Right.
works,
Yes, it's
It's like,
because people do it. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, there's something about the repetition, and even if it's a poor writing session for you, you don't get what you want, you're meandering, you can't think of something. Sometimes I think that stuff is, maybe you're ready to hit a new level.
yeah,
And so rather than get out of the chair, just push through it or go back the next day and push through it and see what happens. I think you
yeah,
learn a lot from failure, and we don't talk about failure enough.
mm,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and failure is not a permanent state, like you're
Right.
saying. Like you might feel like, well, I'm failing at this. I'm not getting this.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go, watch Netflix or whatever
Right. Yeah.
your
Yeah.
choice of distraction might be. But there's something to be said for pushing through. And even sometimes when I'm
Hmm.
feeling like, these are more rare, but like I'm feeling, oh, this is pretty good. I'm kind of liking this. How can I take it even farther? It's like,
Yeah.
there's a Tibetan saying, when you get to the top of the mountain, keep going. Like you might think you're at the top,
Right.
but there might be a
Yeah.
little more to push along. And so
Yeah.
I love that piece of it too.
I love that idea. And, the other things you can do if you're not writing or if time doesn't allow, there are other things you can do. You can read. For those of us who submit, you can submit your work and, revising a draft, working on another genre, helping someone else out, writing a critique or even an Amazon blurb for their book. I mean, like all
Yeah.
that stuff helps. Going to see readings, being online, supporting the community that supports you, finding a community that can support you, or starting one. I mean, all of those
Yeah.
things kind of keep you engaged.
That's
So,
beautiful. Yeah, I
yeah.
love that because it goes back to what you were saying before that we're always writing. And
Hmm.
I always tell people, write reviews, even if it's like a paragraph on Amazon or Goodreads
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, write reviews of books that you love. And if you're feeling brave enough, share it with the writer. Let them know how
Yeah.
much their book moved you.
Yeah.
You may not always get a response, but I've made some amazing connections over the years from that.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, it keeps you
Yeah.
engaged
Yeah.
with your own writing, your own tastes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I ended up making anthologies, as January knows.
Yes.
Um, I've been doing that for years, and that's one big way. Like I moved to Vermont where I had like almost no community and knew no one,
Right.
and then I had to kind of make my community and bring that
Mhm.
closer around me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, what you're saying is so important there.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we can do things that are just selfless. So writing a review, sending somebody an email, even making a comment on social media for somebody's success. I mean, we don't have to get anything out of it other than, just the joy of doing it.
Mm.
Supporting the community without getting anything is just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you said that about helping someone too, I was thinking there are all these great stories about how beautiful things emerge from helping other people.
Yes,
And I
yes.
think Mary Oliver's poem "Wild Geese" came because she was just writing the poem to illustrate how enjambment worked in a poem, and she wrote this amazing poem to help this student or someone that she was tutoring in poetry. And now we have this just amazing document of that help. But it was, I think when we're helping other people or giving to other people in some way, there's like a critical part of our brain that shuts off. And it's
Mhm.
like we're just in that pure space, like you said, in the groove or in the zone of giving.
Yes. That's an amazing story. I did not know that about Mary Oliver, but
Yeah.
that's so true. But I like the idea of, here's I'm going in, starting a poem to help a student, and
Mhm.
I'm not thinking so much about the topic, at least initially. I just want to write something. And yeah, that's a way to sounds like how you describe it, that was intentional, but there is like a roundabout way to get to writing the thing that you want to write. Sometimes I tell
Yeah.
students to think about form as opposed to topic. So,
Mm.
if you're trying to, as a way of tricking yourself, I mean, find form that might work for a subject that you're working on. So you're writing about something that has an element of duality, then maybe putting the form in couplets,
Mm.
might be engaging. And then you're sort of working on that structure. And, do you want the lines to look and sound about the same? Then you're focusing on enjambments and how it looks and rather than, oh, this is a tough subject. I don't know if I can get it down. So sometimes that works for me too,
Yeah.
focusing on form as a
Yeah.
distraction.
I love that. I think we have to distract and trick slash fool ourselves a little bit to
Hmm.
get to some of that really juicy, interesting, and sometimes really
Yeah.
difficult subject matter.
Yeah.
I often use the metaphor of coming through the side door, or
Yeah.
like in Vermont, like coming in through the mudroom, which is the room that we all use. And along those lines, I was going to ask you, Jan. You have written, I mean, you write a lot about joy and
Hmm.
beautiful things and
Hmm.
finding beauty in the midst of difficulty, but you
Hmm.
write about a lot of, heavier material too. You write a
Hmm.
lot about personal grief and I would say collective grief. I'm thinking about the pieces you've written about Emmett Till.
Hmm.
And so how do you get into that material
Hmm.
while also taking care of yourself? Because
Yeah.
it can
Hmm.
have that effect on you, right?
Hmm. So when I wrote Glitter Road, I was in Mississippi. I won a fellowship and I took my kids down to Oxford, Mississippi, and it was a unique experience. I mean, I wish we all had a chance to step out of our lives for a bit and experience something different for an extended period of time. So I was down there for 7 or 8 months and just, well, trying to get the kids settled in high school, but learning about Emmett Till and the markers, the marker for where he was pulled out of the river that had been shot up and by three Old Miss students. So that sort of led me down the path of Emmett Till. And I always feel like I should say Emmett Till, being a 14-year-old boy who was beaten, shot, thrown into the Tallahatchie River, in 1955. That whole experience taught me a lot about grief and trauma. And I mean, so much so you could kind of feel it in the land. I mean, the legacy
Yeah.
of slavery in Mississippi is strong. And I'm from Virginia. I mean, I'm from the eastern side of Virginia. You know, there are other parts of Virginia that are, I don't know, a little more traditional, I guess. Um, so it was an interesting experience. And I had research to do too. So a lot of it was about curiosity.
Mm,
And to write about heavy subjects like race and killing and what we do to each other, that's hard. I mean, so I was really in a learning phase and just trying to get settled. And then COVID hits. This is
mm,
2019 and then
yeah.
2020 in March. And I didn't start writing until, well, I couldn't go anywhere. So the kids and I were sort of sequestered in the house. So that's when I started writing the Emmett Till poems, but I didn't just sit down. I didn't really want to do anything that was, hey, I just saw this and now I'm going to go and write it. I mean, I really wanted to take
Mm,
my time and think about it. So I took notes, but I needed all that time to process it
yeah. Yeah.
and um and to learn about the people and to learn about that community and Mississippi as a whole, how they're doing now. But that story is also intertwined with the first book, the first poem in the book is Autopsy, and it's one I have, even issues around now, but it is, it's after reading my ex-husband's autopsy report,
Mm,
and sort of dealing with the imperfect marriage and so it really was sort of a complicated book to put together. And so by the end, there's love and that's come back into my life. But yeah, I mean, it was such a unique experience. I don't know if I could repeat something like that.
yeah.
Um, I'm glad for it, but we all are, my kids and I are, I think we're all stronger because we did this thing together.
Mm,
Learned a lot about ourselves, and I think we'll always carry that with us. And the Emmett Till story is still with me. I don't know what more to add to it. I always thought I should have written a poem for
mm,
Mamie Till Mobley, Emmett Till's mother, and it just didn't manifest then. I kind of have written one or two now, but you
yeah.
know,
Well, it's as you said, I mean, you're taking notes, you're processing, there are
mm,
so many layers, I'm
yeah,
sure, to work
yeah,
through. And especially when you're transporting yourself and your family to this
yeah,
brand new and very different place, I'm guessing, in
right.
Salem, Massachusetts.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, by the way, it is since it's Halloween. I'm in New York City right now, but I am thankful to be away from Salem. It's just, it's the spooky season. It is, but Salem's like that year round, and it's so cool and great. And but the tourists are in, so I'm just fine on this Halloween. Happy Halloween to all who celebrate.
Yeah. Well, I would love to hear, I'm sure we would all love to hear a new poem or a different poem. Doesn't have to be new at
Let
all.
me see how brave I'm feeling. This I will say I didn't prepare this, so.
Oh, that's okay. That's
I'm
okay.
just looking on my list of poems.
Um,
Um,
someone someone asked which book the Emmett Till poems and autopsy are in. That's in Glitter Road, and yeah, that with that shiny cover. And then Catherine was asking us if we have a book to recommend on poetry techniques. Um, I don't know if you have any
I
books that speak.
like I teach the Poet's Companion, which is, a bit old, but I love it. I mean, it's
Mhm.
Kim Adenizio and Dorianne Lux, and I think it's got some really practical tips. It's written by poets, so it doesn't sound like a textbook.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of great chapters in there. Um, Dorian Lux just put out a book, I think, Finger Exercises, which I
Mhm.
have but haven't really dived into. And and Kim Adenito also has another book. What is it? I just have the name pop down in my head. Ordinary
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah, I was gonna say
So
ordinary something. Yeah.
yeah. So I really like those books.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I was going to recommend The Poet's Companion, so yeah, we're on the same page there.
yeah. let's see. So,
So whether to be brave or not, I think you were saying.
yes, yes, yes. Um, so, we, so, I just lost a really good friend, and some of you may know Jennifer Martelli, and she passed a month ago yesterday. And so we're talking about grief, and I'm just like, wow, I didn't think I'd have something, so present to talk about. I'll read this one, and I will admit it is a draft and it is not good. And since you have brought up Mary Oliver,
Hmm.
I'm blatantly stealing a line. So this is a draft, okay? This is called The Soft Animal of My Body.
Hmm.
The soft animal of my body wants spaghetti and meatballs, big fat globes simmered in tomatoes and garlic, followed by ice cream. Ritzy AF, that's the ice cream name. From Holy Cow Creamery, a swirl of salt and sweet that tastes like the world before the age of grief. The soft animal of my body wants September wind to stay forever, wants the trees to clutch their green like a secret they refuse to share, wants the light to linger a little longer as the year tilts closer to the end. The soft animal of my body wants to go down to Salem Willows, play skee ball at the arcade as the arcade lights flicker and the machine spits out paper tickets, then trade them all for something plastic, bright, and utterly useless. Later, my body's soft animal will walk along the rocky shore, the tide with its endless ebbing, its litany of take and take. I'll dip my feet into the chilled water and search for the moon's sliver, its sly half smile stretched over glistening sea, and think of you. And when I return home, the soft animal of my body, which loves what it loves, will reach for the phone, wanting to tell my friend about my despair. To hear her voice one last time, like waves ebbing from the shore.
Hmm.
So,
Oh, that is so beautiful, Jan.
wow.
Draft or not, it is
Yeah.
beautiful. And,
Yeah.
I think we all felt what you were feeling.
Yeah.
Just that desire to reach out. I mean, and the desire to reach out doesn't go away
Hmm.
ever, really. I mean, I
Yeah.
still reach for the phone, like, "Oh, I wonder how my mom's doing.
Yeah.
What does she
Yeah.
need today?"
Yeah.
But especially when you lose someone that, you feel like you were always able to check in with and like
Yeah.
was living in tandem with somehow.
Yeah.
Um, I love that you use that Mary Oliver line and
Hmm.
how it becomes this litany. I
Hmm.
think Susan All was asking in the
Hmm.
Q&A, like, how do you kind of hit that place where you feel like you're channeling something? And I
Hmm.
think one way to do that is what your poem illustrates, which is to, borrow a line, or you
Hmm.
said blatantly steal a line from Mary Oliver or someone you admire or a
Yeah.
friend or whomever, and just roll with it, see where it takes you. Because
Yeah.
boy, does this poem just take off, take off, take off. And it does feel like we're riding that wave with
Yeah.
you,
Wow.
that desire to just let the soft animal of our body love what it loves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, yeah, I don't know if that's one I will publish, right? So, but sometimes that's not a reason not to write the poem. And if you're
Yes.
doing a weekly challenge, I'm sending them to the other people. So Jen was on so it was Jen Martelli and Cindy Beach and Jennifer Jean. So Cindy and Jennifer and I are still doing the challenge. We feel like we should finish it at this point. But I send it to people I trust, right? And the deal with doing a poem a day, a poem a week, is that we don't comment on anybody's poems.
Mm.
I mean, occasionally, if I see something I like, I might just send a private message, but it gets too complicated and too thought provoking to, it takes the fun out of it if you're just not. sending it. So again, lowering your standards. Although that line has been rolling in my head really ever since she passed. Like, what does the soft animal of my body really want? I mean, it really just wants to lay down most
Yeah.
days and watch Law and Order SVU. That's what my soft body wants. So it's a defense mechanism and it's
Yeah,
part of grieving. And sometimes letting yourself just do that is
that's right.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So, and I usually don't. I mean, my dad passed away a few years ago, and I still haven't written a good poem about that passing.
Mhm.
Um, but this feels again, the person that you're texting with almost every day, and so that she's missing out of, we're going forward, and her timeline stops. So I don't generally write poems when I'm in the middle of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and so that's why I feel like I don't know, it's completely self-serving, but it is my poem, so,
I think we all feel served by that poem too. I mean,
And
if I
so.
was running a literary magazine right now, I'd be like, "Hey, January, can I publish that poem, please?"
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
because it is beautiful. And but I think you're making a really good point. And
Hmm.
that is that, we can write something and even write something that we love that helps us. Perhaps it would help other people in our orbit if we share it, but we
Hmm.
don't have to write it to publish it.
Right.
And sometimes I think when we're working with something like grief, global collective grief or our own personal grief, it can be useful to take off the pressure and say,
Hmm.
I'm going to write this anyway, and
Hmm.
I never have to show it to another soul
Right.
because somehow that gives us that sense of comfort that you're looking for in the
Hmm.
poem,
Yeah.
like I'm with you with the spaghetti and meatballs, the
Yeah.
Law and Order, in fact, and
Yes.
I've never had Ritzy AF ice cream, but I will
It is
seek it out now.
delicious. It is in, yes, North Shore, north of Boston.
Okay.
There's Ritz crackers in the ice cream. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah,
So there you
okay.
go. Yeah.
I had a
Ritz and AF.
feeling. Yeah, I love that. But
Mm.
it's, that I see Jen Garrison is commenting. It just gives us permission
Hmm.
to write something that might feel really brave and vulnerable, but
Hmm.
also, like you were saying with the Emmett Till pieces and even the Mamie Till pieces, maybe you will
Hmm.
write those and they're just not in the same book necessarily, but they may still be really alive. But just that taking the time, and I think to be in a phase, I'm going to steal this phrase from you, to be in a learning phase where you're just taking notes,
Yeah.
like after fresh grief, after someone's sudden death, or a sudden transition, even like divorce, loss of job, whatever it might be,
Mhm.
you kind of just need to take notes for a while because
Yeah.
it's a really different space to navigate, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about, I mean, I'll broaden out a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
where we are as a country. I mean, we are so fractured right now, and you know, there is a lot of just public grief, public anxiety, and that filters into the work too.
Yeah.
There are a few poems in Glitter Road that sort of hint to that. And so I think what we are doing collectively is that we are creating this we've been talking about anthologies. We're creating
Yeah.
this larger anthology,
Mm.
this human anthology of where we are as a time. And so we need the grief poems and we need the joyful poems,
Right.
right? We need to we any way we can feel, we can't have one without the other. So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I mean, I love reading a good sad poem, but I really love, something that's just a surprise.
Yeah, and that is what joy is. I mean, oftentimes for me anyway, it comes in the midst of despair or grief. If I'm being really alive to that feeling, then this sudden joy can come in. It can be very quiet, whispery, but it can also be like this burst of joy. And I agree with you completely. You can't have one without the other. And if you're agreeing, as hard as it is, I don't want to downplay that, but if you're agreeing to deeply feel your grief and just go through what you're going through, the joys will be deeper too when they come.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
that Ritzy AF ice cream is going to taste even sweeter.
Everybody go out and look for Holy Cow ice cream, Ritzy
Holy
AF.
cow. Okay. Now we know we have more
Yes,
details. But as
yes.
Lisa Ashley is saying, it is hard to write about something in the middle when you're in the middle of it. And
Mhm,
I think, I often give the example of like when my mother
mhm,
had just passed away, I have a regular writing practice, but
mhm.
I was writing these poems that were just terrible. They were not scratching the surface like at
Right,
all. And I'm
right.
like, can I not write anymore? What's happening here?
Um,
But you just
yeah,
need to be taking notes. You need to be
right.
really gentle with yourself
Yeah.
and kind of be in that curious phase, like you were
Um,
saying, for a
yeah,
while.
it's okay not to write. Nick Flynn said this when we had him at Salem State, and this is back in the days when it was COVID and it was a Zoom event. But when he's not writing, he's living. And
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with that, right? So sometimes life just won't allow you to write. There are real reasons why we can't do it at the
Yeah.
time we want to. And I always feel life is a little bit like whack-a-mole for me. It's like, well, something pops up and I got to deal with that, and then something pops up, and then so it's never really like, work, we talk about work-life balance, but that's not
Mhm.
really a thing. So we handle it. But, if we can find any kind of consistency, I mean, we have to write the bad poems so we recognize the good ones. And there's no reason not to pillage the bad poems for that great line
Mhm.
or the phrase or the way it looks on the page so you can use it for something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure I believe in bad poems because one poem just leads to the next, leads to the next.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you're willing, like you said, to just pillage your own work, like, wait, okay, that stanza I love, and that's
Right.
just coming right over here.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then we'll see what happens with the rest of that.
Yes.
That's no big deal.
Yeah.
But to have almost this like mind of abundance that, you might
Mhm.
not write every day or even every week, but there is probably more where that came from.
Yeah.
And so to just not be so rigid, I guess, about it and
Right.
think that you
Yeah.
can only do it this way or that way.
Right. Or that you can't use, if you're doing, a long-term challenge or even a project for yourself, there's no reason why you can't reuse your own phrases in your poems and
Yes.
just publish the best ones. But like, it's a fine line between knowing your own defaults, I guess, like,
Mhm.
I like to use, at the age of grief, in the series of poems I've been writing lately, I've used that phrase a few times, and I feel like I'm sort of figuring out which poem it fits in best.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that phrase really stood out to me in the piece that you just read for Jen Martelli.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think it's almost like you're sending signs to yourself through the poetry.
Yeah.
Like this is the phrase that's on my mind right now, and this
Yeah.
is what's really rich for me.
Yeah.
And it does sure feel like we're living in an age of grief right
Yeah.
now, many
Yeah.
different kinds of grief.
Yeah.
So I think we are all poets, writers, channels, we're just kind of like super sensitive people, just bringing it all down onto the
Yeah.
page, whether we want to be or not sometimes.
Yeah. But I also think that's our superpower. I
Yes.
mean, I wish generally people had outlets or even places to discuss these ideas, but we take them out, we look at them from all sides, and we try to understand. It doesn't always succeed, but we don't gloss over the moments. We really take a magnifying glass to everything, and and whatever the creative outlet is, whether it's writing or cooking or running or whatever. I mean, I wish more people did that. I think we'd all be better off.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean,
Yeah.
when I hear about young people who are struggling, especially right now in this age of various griefs,
Mhm.
I'm not saying that writing is a panacea or a cure-all, but I do wish more people had access to,
Mhm.
these kinds of communities and these kinds of
Mhm.
outlets because
Mhm.
I feel better, poet Naomi Shihab Nye, who will be with us next week, she always
Mhm.
says, nobody ever said, I wrote something and I felt worse. You know, it's usually you feel better, right? After getting it
Yes,
out.
yes.
And I do wish more people had those outlets too.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying too, I wish people could hold on to more that idea of taking time, being
Hmm.
patient, being really gentle through your process.
Hmm.
Because Nancy Murphy here is saying, she just went on a retreat and it was so fruitful, but she didn't come home with a strong poem that she really loved, right?
Yeah.
And so just to be okay with that, to trust that sometimes when we go on retreat or a residency or
Mhm.
something, what you write is not as important as what you're
Mhm.
living. And
Right.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. And you can always come back to that moment, that feeling. You can, you have it with you. So I understand like going to retreats and not always getting the work you think you're going to get.
right.
But it's necessary.
Mhm.
Those periods are necessary for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if it's like a lunchtime retreat, if you can only
Yeah.
manage an hour or
And,
10 minutes, like you were saying, it's
yeah.
something for you.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Well, I would love to hear another poem if you'd be willing to
Mhm.
share something.
Well, let's see. Um, I don't know now. Now I might have to take a request.
Oh, always happy to
Yeah, I'll
give.
take a request. I have
Okay.
three of the four books here.
Oh, okay.
I
How
also
about is
go
In
ahead.
the Company of Women? Do you have that handy? That's also in the
Yeah,
handout.
yes. I will give you the story of that.
Yeah, I love that.
So that was the night before I found out that the marriage was not going to work. And I
Mm,
went out with my friend Colleen Michaels to Starbucks.
mm,
And I was like, something is off. I don't know. Um, and she did what only friends can do. She said, it's going to be fine. Whatever it is, it'll be fine. I mean, what can you
mm,
say? So that's I think about her, and I do think about, yeah, yeah, I think about her with this poem. In the company of women, make me laugh over coffee. Make it a double. Make it frothy so it seethes in our delight. Make my cup overflow with your small happiness. I want to hoot and snort and cackle and chuckle. Let your laughter fill me like a bell. Let me listen to your ringing and singing as Billie Holiday croons above our heads. Sorry, the blues are nowhere to be found. Not tonight. Not here. No makeup. No tears. Only contours. Only curves. Each sip takes back a pound. Each dry roasted swirl takes our soul. Can I have a refill? Just one more? Let the bitterness sink to the bottom of our lives. Let us take this joy to go.
mm,
So this is from Misery Islands, which ended
mhm.
up being my divorce book.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
love knowing the story of that poem. I don't think I knew that it
Mhm.
was like literally the night after this revelation came about your marriage,
That was the night before.
the night
And then the
before.
next day was not pleasant,
Then
but
you were in it. Then you were in the misery.
yes, so is it
Yeah.
Misery Islands is funny. Misery Islands are two islands off the coast of Beverly and Salem, Great Misery and Little Misery. And
Hmm.
when I was putting the book together, I felt like I needed a long poem. It felt like it was missing something. Um, and then I was with Colleen and at Lynch Park in Beverly, Massachusetts, and she was telling me about, and I lived in Massachusetts for 10 years and didn't know that was like off the coast. And so when I heard about it, it was great and it kind of worked. And then my friend Dawn Paul and her wife took me on a kayaking tour out there because it's not really accessible, but it's a 12-mile kayak
Oh,
back and
wow.
forth.
Wow.
But so to get to the island, and there are all these ruins on the island because it used to be folks from Boston would come up, and that was like a vacation spot, but there's a big fire on the island. So the cover is a picture that I took on the
Hmm.
island. And so Kevin Carey sort of zhuzhed it up a little bit, but yeah, so
Yeah.
it's funny. It's so interesting, even for myself, to be reminded of how these books get put together and why,
Mhm.
you know. So
Yeah, it's like what's going on in the background and
right.
how much your emotional and physical environment
Mhm.
determines what kinds of writing you end up doing and what ends
Yeah,
up going and
yeah,
shaping a book.
yeah.
Um, I love knowing the story of that poem because to me, and I think this is why I feel like that poem has traveled very widely. I think
Hmm.
I shared it and put it in an anthology during COVID, and that it just like took off all over the place. But I think it's because we sort of sense what's
Hmm.
behind it. And it
Hmm.
feels like one of those times when you're like, okay, there's this heaviness, there's this misery, for lack of a
Hmm.
better word,
Hmm.
that's coming up or that is already present in my life. But I'm gonna like set that aside and I'm
Hmm.
gonna go out with a friend and I'm gonna be silly and we're gonna
Right.
laugh and have
Hmm.
coffee or have lunch or whatever it is. And those times are, I mean, we lost that a lot during COVID. But those times are such gifts because they're like these little
Hmm.
oases in the
Yeah,
everyday life.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that poem, to a certain extent, is a bit of a list, but it's also sort of, I mean, a little bit of a list of instructions, make me laugh over coffee, make it a double. So just sort of the directness and, the tone of it, made it kind of fun to write.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like almost directions for your future self.
Yes. Yes. Well,
Like,
sometimes our poems can be that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And it does. I mean, it does. That
Yeah.
poem begs the question. That's what Lisa Ashley is saying. What is my oasis these days? And
Mm,
how do I create it? I think that could be something we work with
that's a
in
good
the
prompt. Yeah.
yeah, in our
Mhm.
writing space. So thanks to Lisa for that.
Mhm.
Yes, and the oasis is writing, as Amrita is saying too.
Yes. I don't have the poem in front of me, but I have often assigned instructions for not giving up by Ada Limon. And
Mhm.
I like the idea of using that poem and at least the idea of instructions for not giving up. Like, what would you write? What would your instructions be? I mean, her poem, that one's a nature-driven poem.
Yes.
But to say to a class, what would that mean for you? What does that look like? What kind of directives would you give yourself? What kind would you offer someone else?
Yeah.
You know, we speak to ourselves so harshly sometimes.
Mm.
We're our biggest critics. So if you were talking to your younger self, which could probably use a little more grace, or a friend or a child, what kind of instructions would you give them? And so I find interesting as a prompt. And I say, well, it may not be giving up, instructions for, sleeping at night, instructions for, whatever. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that idea. I
yeah.
love that poem too.
Hmm.
It's just like this these instructions for not giving up, but it's almost like here's how to give in to delight and
Right.
joy even when you're
Hmm.
having all of these other heavy
Hmm.
feelings.
Hmm.
And I think your piece that you read for Jen Martelli, what was the name of the piece? The Soft Animal of My Body? Was that
Hmm.
it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the repetition of that phrase is one way of getting to those
Hmm.
instructions or that sense
Yeah.
of permission to
Yeah.
sort of say, be like radically gentle, which is what that line invites us to do. What
Yeah.
would the soft animal of my body
Well,
want, or what would it
right.
say?
Yeah.
What would it say to me?
Well, that's exactly. I'm like, and it's admitting that you just, it's admitting that you want some of these superficial comfort foods and just to do something, ordinary and, just distractions. But ultimately, you kind of want your person back.
Yes. Yeah. You want your person back. And I think for me at the same time, doing those ordinary things is like a subtle reminder to yourself, like, I wish my person was here.
Mhm.
Why did this happen? And it's like I'm still alive too. And she or he or they would want me to, eat the spaghetti and meatballs and eat the Ritzy
Yep.
ice cream, right? Yeah, I think Jen would want that for you, right?
I think I need to send you some ice cream.
I, I keep mentioning it. Obviously, I'm craving ice cream. I'm not a big ice cream person usually, but I grew up with Ritz crackers, so I'm really into that idea.
Does Brad like ice cream?
Loves,
All right.
loves
Well,
ice
see, it
cream.
won't go to waste. We'll
Okay,
figure that out.
see,
We'll
all
figure it
right.
out.
Well, I would love to hear the very last poem in Glitter Road, which is the
Mhm.
title poem, Glitter
Sure.
Road.
Yes.
This was one I forgot to include in our handout this week, and it's like I was telling Jan, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. So, this was it's the last poem in the book. It is the last poem I wrote about Mississippi for this book, and it
Mm.
was the last my last day in Mississippi, or pretty close to the last day. So, Glitter Road. I'll take my miracles however they appear these days. A salamander poking its head above the bricks, the shocking blue overcoat of the season's first bluebird, a spider web unbroken. At the corner of Molly Bar and McElroy, I saw a thick trail of glitter in the curve of the right turn lane. Fuchsia, heavy shimmer refracting the noonday sun as if laying flat a rainbow's extracted hue. Not paint or blood or a parade shedding its cheer. It's the faded streak of eyeshadow as it trails into flecks, then disappears. I think of cars passing through this moment, their undercarriages aglow with possibility. Hard not to feel good riding a glistening wave, my tires now bespeckled with a purple sheen that's tough to rid or wash away, the road ahead made beautiful by this temporary shine.
Mm. Love that one so much.
Thanks. And I'll have to say that that pretty much is what happened. I was driving down the street, and this is my poems are very situational. I was driving down the street, and there's a big purple, you know, blotch in the street. It wasn't quite paint, and I didn't exactly know what it was. And I have come to find out it was like a dye that they use to mark the currents in water systems that had
Hmm.
just spilt on the road, right? So it was fun imagining this, this streak as what could it be? Well, that's how I know when I'm in a groove. When you
Mm.
can see something and you're like, you can imagine possibilities.
Mm. I
Yeah,
love that as being a barometer of like, am I in the groove? Am I in the zone? Because it's
yeah,
so true. Like you're
yeah,
driving down the road and you're just more open, you're more curious and just
yeah,
willing to go on this imaginative leap into what the heck is this glitter
yeah,
wave that I'm
right,
driving over, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the book was originally, I was going to call it Mississippi Season,
Mm.
but the publisher thought it might be a little limiting. And so
Mm.
it kind of worked out that Glitter Road ends up being
Yeah.
the last poem in the book and the title poem.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it is about tracing these roads and, it's called Glitter Road, bright. They're not always bright, but you're
Hmm.
still following the road and you have these patches where,
Hmm.
things turn bright for a while and,
Hmm.
you're in that groove, you're in that zone as you've been saying. So
Hmm.
I think the title is wonderful, works well for this. And I just want to thank you so much for spending time with us today and
Thank you.
being so
Thank you.
generous with your experience and wisdom and your poetry. We could just have you read like five more, but we won't. We won't keep you past our allotted time.
Well,
But we're
thank
very
you.
grateful.
Would it be okay if I read a poem by Jen
Yes,
Martelli? Would that be okay?
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, this is a poem in the magazine It's Incessant Pipe, and it is called Land Masses. And this is a poem where she imagines, what happens, when the land way back when the land masses broke apart, the continents, land masses. Some days I wake with a big bruise rimmed with yellow on my thigh, or my shin, or my tender upper arm. Maybe in a dream, I smacked into a bureau drawer, slammed a door hard on myself, slammed it closed tight and for good. I've been thinking about the last day the continents touched. And there was a last day, or the last night a chunk of earth split off, became the moon. I watch now, became the moon I watch now. Think of it. You've lost people. There was a time, and I'm not talking about death. They're still here, apart, maybe in sleep. I'm trying to hold on to something. I've never wondered how much time I have left, but how far back, how deep, how long have I been separating from you, from my body, from the land? I believe, and there's no science to back this up, on the last day the giant land masses touched, horses galloped up and down unhooked coats under the moon. Some horses were roan, some gold.
Mm, wow. Thank you so much for that. I had almost forgotten that we didn't read that. I put
Worries.
that link in the chat for everyone. So if you don't
There's,
know Jen Martelli's work, please do
yeah,
look her up
yeah,
and
and there's audio there. So if you, she's a much better reader than I am, and it is her work. So you get to listen
yeah.
to the audio.
Well, that
Thank you
was
for letting me
lovely.
do that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for honoring Jen's memory with that poem and with your own poem too. And
Mhm.
um, I will ask you if you would be willing to send us your draft poem. We will not
Oh, God.
share it. I'll put it in a Google Doc that nobody can touch or share or anything, but
Sure,
only if it's up to you. It's, if it
sure.
feels right to you.
All right, let me do that. I can do that later today.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right.
All right, Jan, thank you so much.
Well, thanks. Thank you, James. And thanks everybody for popping on today on Halloween. I can't pop on and then answer all the messages coming in, but I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck with your writing and happy Halloween.
All right. Thanks, Jan.
Okay.
Take good
All right.
care. Bye-bye
Thanks.
now.
Bye.
All right, everyone. So, what an amazing time with January Gill O'Neill. Thanks for showing her so much love and giving her your attention. So, I would love for us to do some writing now from one of January's poems. And as always, I'll give you a prompt to work with, and then please feel free to go your own way. I think today, January's very rich poems gave us a lot of different possibilities to work with. And so I'm going to put the link to the Google Doc if you would like to look into that, get into that, and then I'll also do a share screen of what we end up working from. And again, please feel free to go your own way. There's no right or wrong answer in this writing. I think what I'm going to do is ask us to work from Jan's poem in the company of women. So I will go ahead and read that again and then give you a little prompt to go along with that, although we kind of already got a prompt earlier from Lisa Ashley. What is bringing you joy today? What is your own personal oasis that you might work with from that? And then we'll take some time to do some writing together. Okay. All right. So this is again in the company of women by January Gill O'Neill. Make me laugh over coffee. Make it a double. Make it frothy so it seethes in our delight. Make my cup overflow with your small happiness. I want to hoot and snort and cackle and chuckle. Let your laughter fill me like a bell. Let me listen to your ringing and singing as Billie Holiday croons above our heads. Sorry, the blues are nowhere to be found. Not tonight, not here, no makeup, no tears, only contours, only curves. Each sip takes back a pound. Each dry roasted swirl takes our soul. Can I have a refill? Just one more. Let the bitterness sink to the bottom of our lives. Let us take this joy to go. So as always, I just want to point out the rich music of this language and some of these internal rhymes like coffee, frothy, many L sounds you'll notice. Laughter, fill me like a bell. There's laughter, fill like bell. And in the line before that, she's really playing with language here. Hoot and snort, cackle, chuckle. Each set of words is almost like a set of slant rhyming words on its own. And the not here, no tears, only contours, only curves. She's really channeling this sort of instructional, authoritative voice. So, you might do that for yourself. Give yourself a set of instructions, like Jan was talking about, for those times that are not so easy to get through, those times when you might be seeking some comfort. And if you're kind of at a loss for where to start and where to run with, you might borrow Mary Oliver's phrase as well, the soft animal of my body wants, and write your own poem about what the soft animal of my body wants. The soft animal of the body might want to laugh with people over coffee. It might want to lie on the couch watching a TV show. So a couple of different options to work with there. I will go ahead and share the screen. So this is up there for us, and we'll take the next 15 minutes or so to do some writing and come back together, say goodbye, and get ready for next week. All right. Happy writing, everyone. And again, about 15 minutes writing from this poem or the soft animal of my body. All right, friends. So let's go ahead and finish up whatever you're writing, or you're welcome to keep writing as well. I just want to say a few words about next week. So remember that we'll be going for an extra hour next week. So we'll still have our writing time after the session with Naomi Shihab Nye, whom I'm very excited to share with you. And then we'll have about an hour after the writing session. So we'll end at 3:30 for those of you who can make it. And that'll be a time for, we'll have as many people as we can share something that they wrote, or if there are just some pearls of wisdom that they want to carry forward from the offering into daily life. I welcome those reflections as well. So that'll be a time for that. We will get to as many people as we can get to. I want to thank you all for your wonderful comments today. And, I also want to respond to, I think it's Pam Kirby's question about establishing a routine in the writing practice. And does it ever take away the amount of times you experience the sudden, surprising inspiration where you have to grab a pen and just let it pour out of you? I encourage all of you to do whatever works for you. So if a regular writing practice works for you, whether it's in the morning, in the evening, in the middle of the day, I think it can be useful to have a time when you show up, but also to still stay really present and really aware for those times that Pam is describing throughout the day when you might feel called to grab that pen and write down a moment of inspiration. So I recommend staying open to it all. I think it's a beautiful practice. And actually, I find that having a regular writing practice when I know I'm going to have to show up, even if nothing happens during that time, I feel like the pump is primed. It's ready for when another moment of inspiration or another little breakthrough comes throughout the day. And I think that's what can happen when we go away and do a little retreat or a residency. We take a step away from daily real life, and we start to establish some new routines. We learn to listen in a deeper way and pay more attention to those moments, like January was describing, whether it's in the coffee shop with a friend or driving over this strange wave of glitter that you see on the road. I find that I'm more aware of those in just everyday life as well. So, other question I saw, how long will these recordings be available to all of you? I will keep them available for as long as I can. I don't really intend on broadcasting them widely whatsoever, but as long as they are able to stay on YouTube, as long as you're not sharing them with other folks, then I don't think it's any big deal to just have you be able to hold on to them and go back to them whenever you want to. Or, if you want to do another writing session, if you need an infusion of inspiration, I think it's a good practice to go back. So I will keep those available for as long as I can. And then lastly, I just want to end today by sharing a poem of my own. This is, I know a lot of you probably already have the book, but it's from Turning Toward Grief. And I wanted to share this one because it seemed to me that a lot of our conversation with January Gill O'Neill was around recognizing our own aliveness and really staying present to those moments of aliveness whenever they come. So this one is called To Be Alive. In every moment of grief, there is a small opening, perhaps the size of the hole cut in the birdhouse hung on a tree in my neighbor's yard. It seems that nothing could thrive in that tight, dark space, but soon I see the flash of fledglings aching for flight, yet still afraid of it. And when the mother wren returns with food, somehow fitting herself through the opening, I hear the chirping chorus of their hunger to be alive, and standing alone on the gravel road, suddenly remember my own. So, definitely written in a time of fresh grief, but and a time when I felt like I was not able to go out very far, extend myself very far, but I could feel still the hunger within me to be alive and to be able to appreciate the moments like I observed of these winter wrens and this mother just, making herself so small so that she could get inside that hole and feed her fledglings before they were able to take flight. And then hearing the chorus of the chirping, chirping, chirping when she shows up. So I knew that that was a beautiful moment. It was this little miracle, ordinary miracle that we encounter every day. I couldn't quite receive it, but I had the hunger for it. I had the willingness to be alive and present for it. And I think that sometimes that's all our life requires when we're in those moments of fresh grief, whether it is a larger um, collective grief that we might be feeling for the suffering of others, or more personal grief. It's that desire for the small openings and really being aware of those when they come, being willing to enter them, even if it might take some effort, like that mother wren squeezing through the tiny hole. Just being willing to enter that new space, I think, is enough some days for sure. So thank you all for listening to that poem. For those of you who have gotten the book, I appreciate that as well. And this has been a beautiful, beautiful time with all of you. So I'm grateful for this community that we're co-creating each week. And after next week, I will give you all some ways to maybe stay connected with me, other programs that I'm doing, and hopefully some smaller group opportunities that will come along as well, in which you might be able to get to know me a little more and get to know each other a little more too. So keep on the lookout for those. Keep on the lookout for those moments of aliveness, for the hunger to be alive, the hunger to appreciate, even if you're not quite there yet, or if you're not there on a certain day. Just the willingness, as Marge Sizer was saying. In the chat here is enough some days to keep us going. So take good care of yourselves and your hearts, and I will see you again very soon. See you next week with the amazing Naomi Shihab Nye. So take care, everyone, and happy writing throughout the week. Bye bye now.